the way that Selenium works, and
Yeah,
I'm going to
before
go
that,
to.
I have some question.
Sure,
Can
go
I
ahead.
ask? Okay. So when I'm starting to create this automation. So the process here, this is the scratch in every automation, or I need to when I need to work to the automation, it's same or it's different. This is the first question, and the second question is the way of writing the code. It's same, or do I need to memorize this technique?
Okay, so memorization is probably not a good idea for coding because it's never going to be same. You join a company, you look at you join a company, right? And the first thing you look is that, okay, they already have some test. You're going to click on the test and start to read what kind of test they have. You're going to start to say, okay, this is how they've been writing the test. Now you will go with the flow, meaning whatever they have, you try to mimic the same, you try to go the same way. The chances of you writing some test cases, maybe 80% of the test cases you are able to salvage from somewhere else. So they have maybe 10 test cases here. You go through the test case and you see some similarities. You basically salvage it from there. You say, okay, I need this line, I need that line, and you can start to write your own test case. It's not that you're copying, it's just that you just need what they already have. If you copy and paste, meaning if you just say, okay, no, I don't want to use his code, I don't want to use existing code, I want to use new, then you're duplicating, you're basically making your framework not maintainable, right? Because you're writing code for everything. The idea is that the less code you have is better. It's easier to maintain, right? So that's why reusability is 100% needed. So if you have to reuse somebody else's code from your team member, that's totally fine. The first question that you ask, is it going to be same? It's never ever going to be same. That's why I need you guys to understand what you're doing. When you see the way that I'm writing here code, for example, if and else, there is more than just one way to solve a solution. Just like math, you have formulas. There could be many ways to deal with the same situation. Now, we cannot control everybody to say, okay, follow this exact formula to do everything. So they may write their code differently. For example, here I have a variable. And like, for example, let's say string and name is equal to, let's say like Java or something, right? Another person could say, okay, I don't want to even create a variable. I don't need that. I'm going to directly put this inside of my method that will consume this variable, right? Now, there is a reason why you create variable is because of reusability. What if you need this again in the later code so you can use it, right? So the preference and the way that people write code, it really varies person to person. You may write one way, and now somebody joins in your company. They will initially follow your way of writing code. They will go with the flow until they have a better understanding. And then they will try to improve. If they can improve, then they will. If they cannot improve, they will continue to follow your way of writing code. And there is always a better way to do it. So if somebody comes back and say, hey, you wrote this, can you fix it? Yeah, sure. What it is that I did wrong? They may say, no, it's just that you can do it differently. Okay, is it better? Okay, no problem. I'll go ahead and change it. That process I'll explain to you. That's called pull request. You basically saying that I have created new test cases. Here are my code. Can I merge my code? Can I take my code and put it into the repository right here? And you create a request and somebody reviews in your company. And that is a must. It's a process that is mandatory, right? If you are a QA engineer or software engineer, especially software engineers, you will definitely have somebody review your code before it goes out, because you can potentially put the whole company out of business, right? And for QA engineers, we cannot put the company out of business. We cannot harm it. We can only make it better. So that's why it's kind of easy. If you're going into IT, QA is probably the right position to go into first. But also when you write code, they will come back with recommendations. Say, hey, can you do it this way? And you're going to say, okay, let me look at it. Sure. You know what? Let me do it that way. And, we take recommendation. We don't take offense if somebody says, okay, you can do better. We just basically go with it, because regardless, if you have to do it all over again and you have to spend extra 2 days, you're getting paid for that extra 2 days. Nothing to do with, it's nothing personal, right? So just do it, right? I hope that answered your question, the first two. Now,
is there any name to write the code, any formula?
If there is any coding, okay, so that's called coding standard. Your team member or anybody that works in your company. So let's say somebody like me, maybe like created the whole team, the automation team, and I created the framework for the whole team to use. I may give you guys training in the beginning, and then I will say, this is how I want my code to be. This is how I want you to name my variables, because you can basically name however you want, right? You can say whatever, like with this, all this, maybe you're naming correctly, maybe you're naming ugly way, like for example, this way right here. But I will be coming to you and say, this is not how I want it. Here is a list of things that you need to follow when you write your code. So if you want to follow the proper way, you can just ask them, hey, do you guys have a coding standard in place? And if they say no, then you just follow, you look at the existing code and you see how they did the same task, and you just basically follow what they have. Okay.
Because I have already done the two technique, you and Shantobhai. So Shantobhai have done another technique, I know that, and you are doing this technique. So that the same thing, but he was doing another way. That's why I'm confused. Is there any standard in coding? Like,
coding definitely.
He did this.
Yeah, it depends on who is the person putting the standard in place. So I can say, this is my standard. This is how I want people to follow. I'm a QA lead, for example. And Shantabhai, maybe he's a QA lead for another company. And then he says, this is how I want my code to be. And now you joined from, let's say you went from my company to their company. You cannot go on day one and say, oh no, everything looks wrong. This is bad. This is how. It's not bad. It's just that they follow a specific standard. If you go to a company and join on your first job and you feel like, oh man, they're doing something wrong, this is not how it should be, think again. I want you to like sit back. I want you to just pretty much understand that there is a reason why they're doing the way that they're doing, is because they have been working this way maybe for a year or two, and it took them a while to kind of follow that process, right? And they had to adapt to that process. So there is a reason why they're doing it. You can go and first day you can say, no, this is how it shouldn't be like that. Joel told me this. So you can kind of like have that in your mind and just go right away and say, okay, this is not how you should be writing this. But on your first job, I would say all the bright ideas, put it to the side and just go with the flow. Just get it done. Don't try to make it better. Just do what you need to do and get it done. And then once you have enough understanding, because when you're going within the code repository and making changes here and there time to time, you're going to get familiar with the whole code base. And then you will have more flexibility on to say, okay, let me do this differently and better. And then you have to tell your team members and say, I did it this way because it helps us to be, more relevant or more, efficient. So yeah, it really depends. So let's not even go ahead of ourselves, because again, everybody has a different way and different standard. And the more exposure you have on different way of doing the same thing, it's better, right? Because otherwise you'll be shocked when you join one company after another and you feel like everything is wrong in that company. All right, so let's start.
Teach, sorry to interrupt, because I know today is short. For now, because we are not anywhere working, as long as the naming convention work and as long as my code run, we are good, right?
For now, you guys are fine. And I'll, at some point when we get to advanced, I'm going to say that this is the best practice. I will teach you guys best practice. So that way, when you join a company, even if you see that they're not doing best practice, you can at least say, okay, I will try to do the best practice. And maybe if they ask me to change, then I'll change it. But at least this is, the best.
Oh no, when we go to a job, they're the god, whatever they say goes.
Exactly, go with the flow. You can't go wrong with that. Yeah, you can go wrong with that. All right. So with that said, guys, let's start because I want to make sure that you guys get a break. You're going to get a break exactly at 8:45, 9. I'll be back. 15 minutes. I just have to take a meeting in that time frame for 15 minutes. I have a team in Vietnam that does some work for me. So it's just, it's pretty much their time. So I have to compromise to do that meeting. Anyway, let me go ahead and start off. So first thing first, when you do automation, right? And let's go into the website that we insurance demo website, right? This is the website, and this is the same website we're going to be using for final project. So it's a good thing that you guys are already getting some exposure to this. The first thing is when you decide to automate a website, and when you're doing automation, you need to know what it is that you need essentially. What is in the website that you need for you to be able to automate, right? And when you basically get a test case, you have to determine what can be automated and what cannot be automated, and what should be automated and what should not be automated. One thing is for sure, if you try to do everything as automation, you try to automate as much as possible, it will burn you in long run, because now you're not able to use your automations. Like, you have big enough bucket of automation tests that is so heavy that it's not running at all, right? Because why? Because maybe you have maybe 2000 test cases. Out of 2000 test cases, you have 300 test cases that fails, and you have to constantly put time to update those tests. And if you do that, that means you really cannot work on the new test cases, because now you're just so much into say, okay, I need to keep working on test cases that are changing. Every 2 weeks, this application change in the real world, right? Every 2 weeks, the whole application, something changes here, and we have to make sure that we update our tests also with that change in order to make sure the automation works. It's not like I create the automation test and it's going to continue to run, right? It doesn't work like that. The reason why you create automated tests is because when they make this 2 weeks change, you should be able to detect two things. One is that what are the new changes that the developer made? And if those changes are valid, if those changes are something that they really intentionally make. So if your test fails, you're going to list all of your tests, and you're going to go through one by one to find out what is a real failure and what is something that you need to update. And that's going to happen every 2 weeks. And I will explain. I think Agile is something that I will cover soon. As soon as we get maybe more finish with the Selenium, right? So in a website, last time that I mentioned, and this is something to make you more feel like that you can do this, right? In a website, give me some things that you as a human can interact with, because that's what Selenium is for. Selenium is there to mimic human interaction, right? When you write automated tests that doesn't mimic human, that automation is good as nothing, right? Because it may work, but then when me as a human, I'm the user, I come here and I want to click, it doesn't work, right? It's because that was never tested as for the human, right? So Selenium is basically there to make sure that we're mimicking humans. So in here, list of things that you have to interact with. For example, this is a logo and it's an image typically. So that is an image, right? This section we call what? Anybody? So things that are here, like, okay, start naming things, right? So anything in this page, I'm going to give it a name, right? Anything in this page is an element. There are different types of elements. I'm going to write elements, right? Elements in a page, right? And now let's talk about the types. This one is an image, img. This one is a button, right? This one is a drop down in this case. This one is a link, right? How do I know? And we dealt with it a couple of days ago. But if you want other links, these are also links. So links. Then we have radio, and then we have checkbox. Anything else that I missed?
Teacher, which one is the radio?
Radio is like when you see something that is like a circular and there is a dot in the middle and you have to click on it, like for example, male and female. When you have only one option in a website, so the way that radio works, like for example, a person cannot be male and female at the same time. So they may, the developers, the front end developers, they may make that into a radio button, right? Where radio is, you can only select one, that's it. Out of all the options, you can select only one thing. And
Understood. Thank you.
so you may select female for yourself and then male or others, right? So 3 radio button for that kind of gender selection. Checkbox on the other side, let's say you could be a, let's say you could be working as a plumber, and you could be also having a small business, right? And there is a very good possibility. So now you may want to check multiple, options. In that case, checkbox is appropriate. And developers, the front end developers, they know which one to use at what situation. They make the determination, but also they get design people to say what to use. So actually it comes from the design and requirement, and developers then they implement. So the decision comes from pretty much the design team and the requirement team. Okay, so in our case, what do we have to know about this? What do we have to know? We have to know how to deal with these guys in using Selenium. That's it. So far, tell me which one you know. I missed one. Text box, which is the highest interaction that you'll be doing. So as a human, think about as a human, anything that you can do to a text field. Give me a list of things that you can do. Okay, as a human, what can you do to a
type
text
in it.
field? You can type, that's one. Okay, so I'm gonna say input, okay, just to be more diplomatic here. What else? What else can you do as a human?
Comment.
You said comment. Comment
Yeah.
and typing, isn't it same thing, right?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else?
Selecting,
You said what?
like selecting images.
Selecting, so let's say clicking, but we're not talking about image right now.
Oh,
So clicking, let's say clicking, you said, okay, we can click on it. Yeah, that's not a problem. What else can we do? As a human, you see a text field, what can you do?
We can search.
No, text field, you can search if it's a search box, but that's also typing, right? Because you're typing something to search, right?
Oh, okay.
So as input. You can read what's in there, no? As a human. If somebody is, if a text field already has messages, or maybe you type something, you can then read it to say, okay, typed it correctly, to validate you did the right thing. Yeah. Anything else you guys want to think about?
I'm writing.
Writing and inputting, same thing. Type, writing. I'm gonna just put writing there.
Navigating is the same, I think.
Navigating and clicking, I would say same thing, right? You're getting to that, right?
Okay.
Okay. So these, okay, let's say these are the ones that you can actually read. You can get the text, right? So read is basically getting text of that field. And now everything that you're able to do as a human in a text field, if I tell you Selenium can do all of that, right? So these are the interaction that for text field, we have to learn how to type, how to click, and how to get text. Now, why do we get text? The reason why we get text is because we want to validate something, maybe something that we typed earlier, if that text field actually containing that information that we typed in. So for validation purpose, we may get it. We may also get text. The other thing we can do, if which you guys didn't mention, we can clear. If there's something in there already, we can clear that. So for example, you want to type something, but it already had a message in there. Then maybe you want to clear that first before you want to type your whatever you want to type.
Well, what about the add and copy?
Add, Can you repeat?
Add, or remove.
Add and remove of what? Like the text?
Yeah.
Yeah, so clear is for removing, and adding is basically input.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just I'm just putting the vocabulary here that is relevant to the subject at this point. So now that these are the 4 things we can do in a text field, the most amount of interaction that you will do with Selenium is inputting, meaning you're going to type it in, okay, using text field on the text box. And we call input box or input field or text box, they're same thing, right? And so you'll clear it first, then you will enter the information, and then later you can check by using get text to get the text. First, maybe you want to click on it before you type it to make sure that you're in the right place. And then you can also to make sure that the text field actually exists. All of this Selenium can do, and you will be learning about all of these, how to do all of that, right? Checkbox, human, as a human, what can you do? Human interaction, basically. Checkbox,
You can
what can you do?
check off the box and uncheck the box.
So check off and then uncheck, right? Uncheck, what else?
Something click.
And clicking will also work as a check or uncheck. The only difference between check and uncheck method is that when you click on it, we don't know it. The one time it'll take it out, the other time it will put it back, right? The check mark. So you really need to understand what you did before. So if you already did the checking, then it'll uncheck. So you can click on it too, right? And then as a human, you can do that. And then you can actually read, same thing, right? You can basically see if it's already checked or not, right? Radio, you can probably do limited amount of things. You can read to see if it's already checked, if it's already pressed on it. You can see which selected, which is read basically, and then you can select, or you can be, I'm gonna write click. Radio is pretty much click, really, nothing crazy. On the link, you can read the link text. You can then click on the link. You can read where the link goes to. What else can you do? Yeah, that's pretty much it, right? Okay. Drop down. On a drop down, you've got a bunch of options. You can read all the options that you have. You can click on options in various ways, 3 different ways, right? And I'll teach you guys that. And then
Scroll down on it, scroll up and down.
yeah, you can definitely do that, but we don't need, scrolling will be very fragile for you to,
Okay.
yeah.
Mhm.
So we will be
Then
clicking on it.
clicking on it.
We can click on
Read,
it.
click on it. That's it. Click on click.
Yeah. And click on options, click on regular, like the drop down is 2 different elements, like the first one, and then when you click on it, then another one comes out, right? So you can do all of that. Okay, so then we got the button, you can click, you can read, right? What does the button do or whatever, right? Image, you can only check if it's there. Check where it exists. If okay, that's good. Got it spelling correct. Okay. Now, if I tell you to be an automation engineer, this is all you need to learn, right? This is it. This is it. I'm trying to help you guys to kind of.
So if we master these things right here, we'll be good to go. Okay,
That's
cool.
it. That's it. And the reason why a lot of people go around the block and run and just keep driving, and basically what I'm trying to say is that if you don't know the destination, you're going to need a lot more time to kind of trial and error, see where you break, see what really, which address. You're going through every single house, trying to find your friend's house, for example, and going through the block. It's going to take forever. So the destination here is that you want to master all of these, how to interact with all of these elements in a page. This is it. This is it. Now, anything beyond that they want you to do, you can say, look, we know we can automate with time and energy. and the money that you guys are providing, we can automate pretty much everything. But should we automate? That's the question. Anything that doesn't fall under this, we shouldn't, because that will be very fragile automation. Now, outside of that, there are a few things which I don't think you'll be dealing with. For example, PDF, right? When people create contract, companies create contract, you want to validate contract. This is basically nice to have, right? If you cannot validate PDF, you can tell them like, we're not there yet. We're not there yet. Validating image pixel by pixel, right? An image, you basically take an image and do pixel by pixel comparison. That is not possible with Selenium. That is possible with other tools, but do you want to do it? I don't think so. It's just an image, right? So you can say there are challenges. Then you have reCAPTCHA. reCAPTCHA. You guys, how many people don't know what reCAPTCHA is here?
Don't know.
Not
Okay,
too much.
reCAPTCHA is basically when a website wants to validate if you're a human being or not. Because anybody can create a automation script, just like you're learning. You may create an automation script and go to Facebook and start to message one person every day, exactly every minute, right? And now what's going to happen is that person is annoyed. He's going to close out his Facebook account, and Facebook just lost one customer, right? Because you decided to message them through automation every day for every minute, right? And you can do that if you want to. The thing is that at some point, Facebook is going to ask you to validate that you're a human or not, right? And that is reCAPTCHA. When you get something on your screen says, find where the traffic light is or something like that.
Is that the
Yeah.
report one? Like, you know, when there is a box that says I'm not robot, and then you can click on it and then they can give you the image.
Correct.
Wait, okay.
Yeah, that's reCAPTCHA comes in many ways, right? One is the image matching. You're looking for the right image. And the other one is that it gives you a 6-digit is okay. So I'm going to write it down. It's right here, multi-factor authentication, right? Multi-factor auth is basically, it sends you a text and then you have to validate. So that's used by bank, and reCAPTCHA is used by mostly companies that want to make sure that suspicious activity is being, at least limited. Now, multi-factor, we cannot bypass this. We cannot bypass reCAPTCHA. So I'm gonna say cannot, right? Maybe these are a list of cannot Selenium limitation. And then image, you can, but really, do you want to? Because your test is gonna be very fragile. Something changes a little bit. The image moves up a little bit. Now it's gonna fail. The test is gonna fail because pixel here and pixel there is no longer same, and it's just going to be crazy. If the size of the image changes, then it will also create problem. So the benefit that you get of testing image is actually doesn't really outweigh the effort. Same thing for PDF. With PDF, what we can do, we can convert all the text from PDF into maybe a paragraph and then check only text. So that is possible, easy way. But you can say PDF is possible, but we pretty much not there yet. But image, reCAPTCHA, multi-factor video, these are some things that Selenium cannot. The lastly is Windows application. How many people know what difference between client server versus web application, right? Client server is basically when you download something on your computer, and then, for example, Microsoft Word is a client server app. That is a Windows application. So can you test client server with Selenium? No, you cannot. That is the limitation that you have with Selenium. You cannot, period, done. Like, there is no discussion how we can go about it. Selenium is only for web application, okay? Now let's think about how Selenium works. Let's talk about the mechanism and what we need to know with Selenium. How it works, and things that I will say to you, it is purely from my understanding. I'm not going to go from the book. I can, but I think it'll be easier for me to explain how I feel about Selenium and how it works by working with it for so many years. So the way Selenium or any automation tool works, right? So this is true for any automation, is that it needs a few things to work with. First, it needs a driver. Okay, that's the first thing. And driver is to basically be able to take control of the browser. The second thing is you need a location. So once you use the driver to go somewhere in a web page, you need the location, or you need the element location, basically. So you got the element location, and then lastly, you need the action. What? So you're saying, driver, I want to get this element or that element and then do something to that element. Action is like you would like to do something with that element. Okay. And that's how it works. We need to provide these three things and it will do something for us. Okay. Finding the location of the element, there is many ways to do it. Okay, so number one is ID, and I'll show you. I think I showed you guys, but Selenium, these are called locators. Okay, let me lowercase this actually. Locators. This is an interview question, so maybe you guys will see this at some point. All right, locators number one is ID. If something already has an ID, let's not bother too much. Use the ID. You know, ID is meant to be unique, but sometimes developers, they don't have control over that ID, meaning even though they are the one who's developing it, it came as a component. It came as, think about the whole unit came together. So they can't really go into the unit and make modification, right? They're using a framework maybe, so they're not able to make that change. So you can go to them and say, okay, this doesn't have an ID. Then you need to basically work with whatever you get, right? So that's how I'm going to list a few things that you need, few locators. Once you get the ID, let's say ID is not there, then you have class. Let's say class is not there, you got XPath. Okay, if it's a link, then of course, if it's a link, use the link text, period. That's it. Like, don't even go with ID if the link has ID, because when you deal with a link and you're using link text, you're doing two things. You're killing two birds in a single stone, is because one will be you will validate that the link text is correct. And the second is that you will be able to do what you need to do, right? You know, click on it, go to the next page. With that said, guys, let's come back to this. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of classwork. I'm going to pause the video for now. I'm going to come back in 10 minutes. You want to make sure that is 1 of 1. If it says 2 of 1, then it's not going to work. Selenium is going to be confused and say, oh, this is too much. Why are you telling me to click on something when there is 2 items on the page? Okay, so it has to be always 1, and it has to be unique. It has to be unique. ID, class, link, whatever. You have to be able to test it here to make sure that is unique. So if you want ID, then test the ID. All you have to do is come in here and let's see, we just deleted the other ID person. So I'm going to go to last name. Last name ID is L name. I will test it by putting a hashtag. If it's an ID, you put hashtag in front of it and then do this. And as you can see, 1 of 1, and it is working. It basically finds it here. If it finds it here, that means our Selenium will be able to also find it and work. So before you even use it in Selenium, you can start to test it first. Otherwise, you're going to spend too much time thinking, why is it not working? All right. Seems like everybody's back.
I have a question.
Sure.
Isn't it, if you don't have anything, we always can use the XPath, right? No?
Yes, XPath and CSS selector. You got two options. If there's nothing, you can always use XPath and CSS selector. But you, as a QA engineer, have to make a choice between those two. Which one is faster? CSS selector is faster. Which one is nicer to look at? CSS selector is nicer to look at. So obviously you can make a determination to say, okay, I want to do XPath or I want to do CSS selector. Nobody, again, go with the flow, whatever they're using. If they're using XPath, then just go with it. But if they don't have a preference, then go with CSS selector.
Okay, thank you.
So, all right, so number 4. Number 4 is XPath. Number 5 is CSS locator or selector, whatever. Selector actually. Number 6 is partial link text. Number 7 is DOM, whatever. I mean, you can say the tag name, right? HTML tag, which DOM actually. What else that I can remember? Let's see if I'm missing anything. Actually, Googled it earlier for you guys, so it should be right here. We got the ID name. Tag name was part of the DOM, so I'm gonna say tag name. Partial link text is there, XPath is there. Okay. When I say tag name, it's basically this. Anytime you see this is HTML, by the way, this is your HTML, right? And you can see HTML always starts with a tag name and it ends with that tag name somewhere, right? Starting, ending somewhere here, ending probably somewhere here. So it's starting, ending right here. Ending always gonna be like XML looking, right? We got the slash, that means it starts here and it ends here, this element, that's it. So now this is a tag name. Div is a tag name. Method, let's see, form is a tag name, right? Anything that has the more less than sign right here on the left side is a tag name. Can you use the tag name? Yes, you can. So I can say FORM, and you can see that it will start to find items within the page, right? You can basically use the tag name also to find your element. And that is because why? You don't want to be limited. If you are a engineer and all of a sudden let's say these 3 items are not there and you cannot automate because it's not there, that means who's going to do, pretty much who's going to help you out? Nobody's there. So you need to be able to come up with alternative to what you have. ID, if it's there, test it to make sure ID is unique, meaning there is nothing like it in the page. Okay. Class name, same thing. Make sure you test it to make sure there is nothing like it. It is 1 of 1. Link tag, same thing. Now, all of these will help you identify all of these. Okay, so these we will be
You are
using.
missing name.
Which one?
Name.
Oh, name. Yeah. Name is also recognized by Selenium, so we missed name. Thank you for letting me know. Okay, so ID name, class name. So if in an interview they will say, which one do you prefer? First they will say, oh, can you tell me what are the locators? Even if you have 10 years of experience, they will still ask you this question. And so yeah, ID name, class name, link text, and you're pretty much going and telling them everything. And they'll say, okay, which one do you prefer? And you're gonna say, well, I will try to use ID because that is kind of unique. If it's not, then I will have my other options. Then they'll say, okay, but do you know Selenium and CSS and XPath? You're gonna say, yes, I use them. Okay, which one do you prefer from them? You're gonna say, personally, I prefer CSS selector because it just looks nice. It's good, the code looks better with CSS selector. XPath is very dynamic and CSS selector is also dynamic. There's nothing that XPath can do that CSS selector cannot do, right? Now, if anything, CSS selector is faster because that is what the front-end developers also use on the application, right? So you can have an argument, say, okay, CSS selector is faster, so I would probably use that. But XPath there are some situation where XPath is easier to use, so I'll use XPath if needed. But there is no one answer, oh, I will use XPath and that's it. This is the only thing I will use. You're gonna say, well, I will look into my elements and see what is available for me to use. If I see a unique ID, of course, I'm going to use that. But if there is nothing, then I will try to use XPath or CSS selector, whichever the team is more comfortable. Sometimes some teams are using XPath more than CSS selector. So I will just basically go with the coding standard, whatever the standard. Then they're going to say, no, but which one do you personally prefer? Personally, I will go into Selenium, CSS selector. And that's it. That is a good interview question and an answer already you have.
So the thing is, so QA engineer can use different locator in same automation, right?
Yes.
If they want.
Yes,
Not only
yeah,
ID, not
definitely.
only
Yeah, of
name.
course, not only ID. You can, so like I said, what is available to you here? Like you want to interact with this email field, you click on it, and now you can see name is there, ID is there. Which one do you choose? Obviously, you want to say, okay, I'll choose ID because that's, you know, that's the first thing, or ID should be unique. Name may not be unique because name can be, this same name can belong to more than one element, right? But ID I know is unique. Now, let's say for any reason, this ID is not there because developers forgot to put the ID or they don't want to put ID. Now you are left with only name, then sure, you just have to test it to make sure name, this is actually unique. This is not everywhere. And then you can use it. Now, let's say for any reason, name is also not available to you, right? Because developers also don't care about that. So then you say, okay, now I will say I'm going to use XPath, for example. So you copy XPath, go ahead and test it here in the bottom. I want to make sure that everybody can test it. So on your browser, if you can, open this up and then do command find, control find, whatever machine you have, and then you'll be able to see a tiny search box where you can put your XPath to test it. You see, the moment I click enter, it basically shows 1 of 1, and it should be, when you go highlight it, it will also show you where you are. That is one way to test your selector. Now, let's say you are that person who have the freedom to use CSS selector, then go ahead and click on CSS, basically locator, and now you have a CSS selector. Now, the reason why I say pretty much lean more towards CSS selector is because in the industry, in at least automation part, most automation expert, most automation, I would say like somebody who is teaching like me, they prefer XPath because that's what they learned in the beginning, right? That's what they were taught by somebody who they learned from, whatever, right? And CSS locator, they didn't learn because they just didn't know there is that door that they can open and which has more option. Somebody with experience on the front end technology, meaning somebody who worked on designing the front end application, will be able to do much more with CSS locator and be able to use them. So I try to tell people all the time, even at work, CSS locator are faster, use it if you can. And I try to have option for both. If my team, if I decide how they will deliver their code, I will always tell them, go with CSS first, and if it's not, then use XPath, not a problem. But CSS locator, it needs a little bit of education for QA guys to understand what it is, the capability of CSS locator, because not everybody knows that. It's 10 years experience, 15 years experience, they only use the XPath. And they don't have to go there because, you know, they're not front-end developers, right? Somebody who didn't do development work will not know the benefit of CSS locator. But yes, they will know how to get one because it's copy and paste, but they don't know how to create custom. They don't know how to like use the full capability of CSS locators. And I will try to give you guys some tips toward the end and say, okay, you can create your own instead of copy and paste. Copy and paste will give you a long one, and we probably don't want that one, right? It's very long, as you can see, right? And I will give you guys some idea on how to create it yourself instead of getting it from here. And that's something that nobody else, I don't think anybody else will be able to give you, just because I used to do some front-end development, so I know how this works. All right, with that said, you are free to use both in a team as long as they are saying, okay, you know, this is how they want it anyway. You have, let's see, let me go into that. So these are the locators to interact with this. Now we only covered half of it, right? We talked about driver, obviously that's Selenium. And then we talked about the finding the elements. Any of this element right here can be found by any of these. And then finally action. So now when you find this with Selenium, all of these goes with something, right? All of this goes with something. And I'm going to put it right here to locate. You're going to say find element. That's it. Find element. And that is something we learned. Inside of it, we're going to say by what, right? By ID. or by what, right? So now you make a choice. You are the QA engineer. You can make a choice. Okay, I don't want to ID then. I want to use name. Go ahead and copy this and replace ID with name, and that's it. And you got to provide the name of your element. Any sort of difficulty understanding at least this portion before I move on to next? Is this crystal
No,
clear?
I'm good.
Okay, good. Now that you're crystal clear on
I'm
this,
good.
the next part is action. So when we automate, what is the purpose on the first place is because we want to mimic human and do some things. For example, let's say we fill this out and we click on continue, and we want to make sure that human can actually do that and be able to go to step number 2, or at least pass step 1, and we can validate that we're in the next page because we filled out the previous page, right? And that is one kind of test case. That is just one test case. And when we do that, we do series of action, series of steps. Number 1 action is typing, right? Typing. And one of the typing, what is the action for typing to this? To basically, once you do that, by the way, so now I'm going to take this. This is driver. The first one is driver. Okay. And the second portion is this. I'm trying to connect some dots to you guys. Okay. So, and then action is going to be that these are the below actions that you can do, right? With Selenium, click. And if you want to type something, what do you need to do? You can say send keys. Obviously, the naming for typing doesn't make sense, send keys. But if you really think about it, it does make sense because you're sending the way send keys works under the hood is basically take one character at a time, whatever you type here, one character at a time, and it puts it into the text field just like human. And that's why they named it send keys. Then
So this is the formula here.
This is the methods, right? So this is the action methods in here, right? So
But this is one of the action method.
This is going to be many of them, right? We're listing it. So let's say so far what you did, what you were able to interact with these elements using these locators, you are able to find them. Then you got to do something to them. Let's say you just find the elements and do nothing. It's actually going to do nothing at all, right? You found the element, you did nothing, right? So now you will have to do something. If you want to type it here, if you want to type something here, right here, then you will do an action class called send keys. Sorry, action object from the class action object, which is send keys. You can also click on it. You can also read on it by using get text, and each of them has a return type. This is return is void. Void and void. What does void do in Java?
It doesn't give return.
Exactly. And this is a string. So these are 3 different action that we, for now, I'll limit to this, and then we're going to go, as we progress through the class, you're going to learn more actions, but at least, you can click, you can enter, and you can do other things. So for now, with these 3 actions, you can actually progress to the next page. If you want to validate, you're going to use get text to get the text and compare using your Java. If you want to write something, you're going to use send keys. If you want to click on this button, you're going to use click. So all 3 will be able to help you to automate the whole page. So everything that I mentioned here is something that you need to know in order to be an automation expert. Does that give you some sort of clarity and destination so we don't end up running around and spend too much time?
Teach, we already did all this in the homework.
Yes, and we have to do it every day now to make sure that you guys did the homework. The last homework was a struggle, and I totally understand that you guys
Struggle was because of the silly COVID thing. My page wasn't moving. That's what we never learned.
Exactly, but that was a click, right? I mean, that was part of the click. All you had to do was a click, find that element and click and get rid of it.
Yeah, but we never learned how to do that.
Exactly. So that's what we're gonna do. Like I said, if we need to repeat this over and over until you're comfortable, I will do that, because trust me, once you get the basic, you're gonna be able to move this to the next level yourself on your own. What was the question?
My question is, when it's, as you can see, under XPath, there is a red line. So if it's a red line shows up, that means, did I do something with the spelling or with the, or I did something wrong because that happened while I was doing the homework, and I was get panicked because I literally spent almost all my day today to figure out why I'm getting like a red line, then I open a new window. So I was just figuring out, before I can, escalate it to you, what I did wrong.
Okay. So when you see red, that means it's your friend. It's trying to help you before you go further in code, right? When you type something in your IDE, immediately becomes red and immediately try to give you suggestions. So don't listen to this right away because you're not finished with your code. Once you finish with your line and it's still red, that means you did something wrong, right?
Okay.
And Java, again, like it's a compiled language, right? It has to, in order for Java to run, it cannot simply just run one class. If you have 200 classes here, 200 test cases, you mess up one test case, everything is going to fail.
Oh, I see.
Okay, because it will not compile. There's a good thing and there's a bad thing. The good thing is that you will never have the whole website down ever, right? Because if you use Java to build a significant website, bigger, scalable website, you know that if somebody mess up on smaller things, it will not even compile. That means it will not even ready to be released. But that's one of the good reason. The bad reason is that I can't even finish my line and it's already complaining, right? And also it will try to give you red, whenever you have something. Let's say you want to update this later, and somehow it's just keep on telling you suggestions, fix this, fix this, fix this. It gets annoying a little bit of time, but it's fine. It's good to know your mistakes early on so you can mitigate that early instead of having 2 pages of code and now you have to go through line by line and see what you did wrong. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So yeah, if it's not code, then just use comment so that way you don't get red on your code. But who's telling you this? Who's basically giving you red line, right? Who's basically telling you did something wrong? It's the IDE, not basically IDE immediately takes your code and takes into consideration whether it's good or bad, right? And the IDE is helping you. You can actually write Java here in this notepad and it will not tell you anything at all. But when you try to compile, when you try to run this Java code, then it's going to say, oh, something is wrong in line number 2, line number 3, and you're just going to go crazy. So it's good to get interaction. This is the reason why it's called IDE. Can somebody tell me what IDE means? This is an IDE, right? Who wants to tell me what IDE means?
Maybe if interaction define the element.
Not the element, because now you're saying this whole thing was created for you to do automation. And this IDE developers are using for their purpose to build a website. IDE means integrated, right? Development environment, where integrated means it gives you feedback right away. It gives you feedback whether you did right or wrong. So that means when you write your code, somebody's always watching out for your mistakes and it try to correct you. So when you see a red line, when you see red, that means it's the IDE telling you exactly what you need to do. So let me bring you Google definition right here. Integrated development environment. Basically, the way it looks, you see the code and everything, red, blue, whatever different colors, is just to give you different indication. This is in reality, the code doesn't have to look like this to make it work. Okay, this is for you. This is for you as a human to say, okay, this is a variable, sorry, this is a string, and this is a string because string is always going to be green color. And then when you have a Java method, it's always going to be like this. It's never going to be red. When you have a variable that was never used, is going to be grayed out, something like this, because this variable was never used. So what if I use it somewhere down the line? For example, let's say browser, now it's back to normal mode, right? So a lot of the color coding and showing you different way of the code is for your readability. So that way you can read it, understand it, and it's easier to read and spot mistakes. And that's why the IDE, IntelliJ, which has nothing to do with automation, IntelliJ is just helping you to write some automated tests through their IDE. You could be writing your automated tests here too if you want to. Do you really want to write your tests in a notepad, or do you really want to write somewhere where you can get some help? So that's the difference. For example, you can write an essay on a Word document, right, in a Word, Microsoft Office, or you can write it in a notepad. Which one do you prefer? You know, so that's exactly how it is. When you write your test right here, this is a folder that is inside of your computer. Even if you delete the IDE, this folder is going to remain because that's your real work. IDE is just there to host, pretty much show you the folders and open it and show you the code in a different way. That's it. Right? That brings some clarity, right? It's not like, oh, I need to have this IntelliJ. There are many IDEs out there. Let's say types of IDE. For example, VS Code is another one. It's very famous also. Visual Studio Code, which actually you can customize and do few things differently. I like IntelliJ because it just makes your life easy. Think about IntelliJ is like an iPhone, and this is a Android device. Think about that, right? This you can configure and do many more things, but this one you can just, it's out of box. It can work just like to eliminate any sort of confusion, just like an iPhone. So if you're not a tech savvy and you get an iPhone, you're happy. If you're tech savvy and you get an Android, you're gonna enjoy it. But if you're not, then you're not gonna enjoy it, right? So it's just preference. So you are free to use VS Code for the same amount of same work, right? It's not a problem. They will ask you, what is your choice of IDE? And you can say, well, IDE, what is that? And then they're like, oh, okay. That's like the first sign that you're not a coder, right? So if they said, what is your choice of IDE? You're gonna say, well, IntelliJ, but I'm familiar with Visual Studio also. Then yeah, sure. That's just a question. All right, let's get back to track where we
one more
were.
question.
Yeah.
Like the homework they provided us, so when I was trying to do it, it's the dependencies. It was underlined and I couldn't fix it. Due to that, I couldn't download the Selenium. So that's why I couldn't done the homework on time.
Okay.
I don't know how to fix.
Were you able to fix it?
No, I couldn't. I tried a few times. I spent like 2 days doing that. I couldn't do it.
Okay, so I would say, like, look at that. The spelling is good for dependencies.
Yeah, it was good. It was just underlined in the first line with the arrow. Was underlined wasn't there. The red, I couldn't fix it. I was trying like constantly.
Okay, so we'll take a look at that toward the end, maybe after the class is done.
Sure, no problem.
Okay, so now I just want clarity to make sure that you guys understand. I gave you some clarity on manual testing in the beginning, like what it is that exactly that you do. Automation, what it is that exactly we do is that we interact with this element in order to fulfill a test case, in order to get to some places and then validate something. And these are the elements that we'll be interacting with. These are the things that we cannot deal with Selenium. At least Selenium cannot deal with these things. And then we have the locators that allows us to use find element, which is a method from Selenium to locate an element using different variations. So by dot, any of this variation will work. And then finally, you got the whole line. So I'm trying to create the whole line here because we've been through this already. Here you can say, so let's say name, using name, and you're finding something. So name is, let's say first name is the page first name. Let's say this is your name you're using. Dot, you can click on it, you can get text. If you get text, it will give you a string back. So now if you're getting a string back, you have to actually treat it like a string. You have to put string, and then you have to give it a name, maybe like name, something like that. And now that you have name containing the exact value that was typed here, for example, here, T. Now these T will be grabbed from that field and putting it under a variable name. Okay, and now you can do whatever you want. You can say if name is equal to T, blah, 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 do something, whatever you want, right, at that point. So that is the whole automation thing, right? And this is, now you can say, okay, you said this is true for any automation tool, and I will say yes, but instead of find element, they may have something like this. They may have something like this find. They're not even calling element, right? Instead of find, they may just have search, right? And then they taking parameters to find that element. So every other tools that are out there, they do have a similar mechanism to work and do the automation. It's just that you just have to know the naming. Some automation tools, they don't even allow you to expose the driver. Driver is by default. They already know. You just have to provide the URL, and they already know what driver is, and you will be able to do that. For some automation tool is like page.find. Page means driver, and this is something that you don't define. It's done by the framework itself. And now find will buy this and that, right? So any automation tool, you can close your eyes and you can bet on this, is that they use the basic mechanism underneath is going to be similar, where they first locate one of this element using one of this locator, and then they do some sort of action. You know, most of the tool out there for automation, click is pretty much click, right? Because then there's nothing can be done here. This name cannot be changed, like, okay, I want to click, right? It's just going to be click. And so that you'll probably notice every tools out there, click is always the same. Send keys on the other side, some tools they use set, some tools they say type, right? It's just depending on which tool you're using, right? So that's why the namings, you have to get familiar with these namings, so that way you can use them when you need to. To make your life easier, I will open up something maybe that will give you some more Selenium cheat sheet. And you know, cheat sheet is basically somebody who spends some time to sit down and put everything in a single page, right? And that is it, right? You can do this yourself, or you can go to like a website like this one, and somebody took the time, took the day off, and they said, okay, I'm going to list everything. This guy right here, if you want to donate, but he took his time and said, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and list everything that we need for Selenium, period. So now browser commands, in order for you to, obviously there are other things that we can talk about, but browser commands is basically, if you want to get title, if you want to get current URL of the browser, if you want to get the page source, these are the things we'll do part of our learning, but these are not elements. These are just browser command. You can also go back, go forward on your browser. Drop down, remember drop down, they have a special section just for drop down, because it is probably the hardest to deal with in Selenium. And there's 3 different ways you can select an option from the drop down. What can we do? We want to select something in a drop down, right? So you can do it with visible text. You can do it with by index value. Remember index? And we're going to use that here. It starts from 0. So if you want to choose the second option on a drop down, you will say which number.
The second option will be number 1.
Number 1, that's it. So when you do index value, you can just say number 1, it will select the second option. When you actually don't know if the dropdown, what options the dropdown has, this is the best way to go. Okay, if you know exactly what the dropdown has, for example, you want to select a country, then you want to select by text or value is appropriate. When you have a dropdown and you know the dropdown options could be anything, then you want to select by index, because it will look at the number and you'll just select the second or third one. Okay. Then you have, sorry, I'm doing something. Then you have navigation. What if you want to refresh the browser at the time of testing? You can use the word refresh. That's it, very easy. If you want to go forward to the next page because you went backward once, then you can do forward, same thing. Back is same thing, and then to command is also. Now we have radio. Remember radio, you want to select. You can select, you can check if it's selected. This is a Boolean right here. Each select will give you true or false if it's selected or not. Not selected, I believe it's also Boolean. I believe so, right? But we need to take a look at that. I don't remember. That's going to be also a Boolean, most likely. Then we have, what if you have a browser that goes and opens up another, like let's say window, you need to be able to switch to that window, do something else. Here is your switch commands. Okay. What if you have situations where your page have maybe 10 links and you want to grab all 10 links, then you want to use find elements with S. So you want to find all of them, and then you want to put it into a list, and then you want to interact with them. Then you have find element, find elements, and find element. Both differentiation is right here. One has a return type of array of web element. The other one has a return type of just web element, which is which we will deal with later. And these are everything that we just talked about, right? Locators, web elements, commands, basically, you know. Lastly, wait, and we will talk about the weights also. Waits is needed because sometimes your Selenium script is going to be so fast that it'll fail. So you need to be able to do waits. There is implicit wait, there is explicit wait, and there is fluent wait. Okay, so we'll learn about all three, because these are not static wait where you can say, okay, wait 30 seconds. No, we're going to say wait until something happens. Wait until these things comes in, which is much better. We can say wait for 50 seconds, but whenever this appears, just go ahead and continue, right? That's better than saying wait for 50 seconds and then go continue, because what happened is it's going to wait for 50 seconds every time. Now, if you have 2000 test cases and you have one step that waits for 50 seconds, you do the math and tell me how long we're adding to our test. Okay, so that's why explicit and implicit wait and fluent wait is very important. The other reason why we don't use a static wait, which is like, okay, wait 50 seconds, very specific, is because what if it takes 51 seconds to load? You know, what's gonna happen then, right? So that's why we want to make sure that we're using wait properly. What else? Yeah, then test ng, we're not in test ng yet. We're gonna go to that at some point. Now let's talk about our objectives of automation. Do you guys feel like you have a little bit of basics on Selenium and how that operates? Any questions? I'm gonna give you guys 10-15 minutes before we can start to write our next test script. Questions? So everybody is crystal clear. That means I can ask questions if you guys don't have any.
I have a question, Teach. I always have questions.
Sure. Yeah, you're saving everybody. Otherwise, I was gonna just start to ask everybody questions. Go ahead.
Could you just go back to the previous page, please?
This one?
No. On the demo website, please.
Okay.
Yes. So I just submit the code that I don't even like, so I want to do something else with that one. See here that says like start secure request code. Okay. So how do here what I did with the code, there is I wrote the auto insurance quote request. I clicked on that one, then it goes to next page, right? So if I want to write a code that simultaneously take me to the page with this click, so how do I write that code? Yes.
Okay, so we'll do that as part of like today's session, so that way everybody else also gets to interact. This is part of these drop down, because if you click next, it goes there, but it's probably a bug, right? If I didn't select anything, how does it know to go to auto, you know?
Yeah, I did that, then whole thing crashed because I put both of them together, and then my computer went haywire.
Okay, so I don't know, maybe something related to the code. But when you want to click on this,
yes,
and if you, let's say you want to auto insurance specifically, so you know exactly what this option is. So I'm going to right click on that, inspect, and I need to know exactly the option first, because this is, you're really like, the way that Selenium sees this is 2 element. One is this thing itself, and then second is the option is another element, right? So I'm going to click. Oh, it doesn't even let me right click. So if it doesn't let me right click and it just continue to just select it, I can also go and here, because a drop down is called select tag, right? And it has all the options listed right here. Okay, so if I want auto, right here is the auto. And then auto looks like value, which is the whole URL, or I can use the visible text. This is the visible text. Auto insurance code from is the actual text. Okay, so you'll have to grab the whole text in order to make it work, not just auto insurance. I believe it is no. That's probably okay. Let's see, auto dealer, auto. Okay, quick from. Okay, no, quick from. Don't worry about it. This is because we already selected that. If we didn't select, it's gonna show auto only. Most likely. Let me see if I can refresh. Yeah, I don't know why this is showing up quick from, but we'll give it a try. Oh, right here. Okay, I am on a wrong one. There's one called quick form, but anyway, you click on auto insurance. You already know the visible text. Visible text is always going to be like this when you open up your HTML portion of this page. Okay, so we can use visible text to select that, and then after that we can click on this and it's going to go to the same page that we would like to go. Anybody else with any other questions before we dive in?
My question was, Teej, can we do both of them? Can we run both of the code together?
With
or no?
With this and that?
Uh-huh.
So if you click on it, you're no longer in this page. So if you think about it, the question should be, first, you as a human being, can you do that? So if I'm a human being right here, I click on it. Can I click on it? It's no longer available to me. How will I click on something that is no longer here?
Oh, so I have to write two different codes. That's why it wasn't running.
Yeah. You can probably comment out this portion and then do this.
Oh, yeah. Should have done that. Got it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anything, like I said, Selenium is there to mimic us, right? Human end user, for a good reason, because the human are the one who's going to use this application. Who's the end user for this insurance website? It's probably an agent, right? Who's going to use this to create new customers, get new customers, basically. And if that human comes here and it doesn't work because all the testing we did is through the back end, then our automated test is no good, right? So that's why Selenium try to mimic human as much as it can. And there are ways to bypass this. Like if I want to just not even care about what it is in here, I want to click here, I can use JavaScript, right? JavaScript is basically, if I just right click, copy, and I can use like JS path, I can go to console, I can go right there, and then I can just do, let's see, click, I believe click will work here. Let's see. And there you go, it worked. So that is probably not the good way to do it, right? So
what just happened?
So I can basically, okay, the same, I can do anything here. Like I can type also here if I need to through here, console. This is a console, this is element, right? This is where you can see your elements. This is a console where you can actually type things and see if it works.
Okay.
So basically we are doing element, not console, right?
Oh, say it again, sorry.
We are working to elements, not console.
Yeah, so mostly you'll be dealing with element, but there will be situation where maybe, let's say this, somehow this, let's say this drop down right here, agent drop down, and it's disabled, right? For you it's disabled as a human, so but you need to interact, you need to select an agent here. Even though it's disabled, you want to select, somehow you want to define the way that application is working. Then you can use something like this on your Selenium. Selenium will accept something like this as a script, and you can say, I would like to go into the web page and change the element, the way the element is. Maybe it's disabled, I want to enable it. You're basically injecting your code in there to make that change, and then you're interacting with Selenium. But Selenium by itself cannot do that. Don't want to confuse anybody here, so let's go back to it's the next level. We'll talk about those.
Too late.
Yeah.
Very late. I'm already confused.
Yeah, it's gonna be when you, obviously I will not go into console and how to do the scripting and stuff like that. This is when you hit the next level at work. Maybe now you're dealing with some issues where you really need to bypass some things. You can use that script, but we don't need it in the beginning to do automation. So now element, this is your HTML. Again, I'm going to explain this to you. Okay, this is your HTML, and this is where you get to see all the tags and all the elements. This is where your color and look and feel. This is CSS. Developers are using CSS style, as you can see, SCSS, and this is basically, I think this is CSS4. Maybe that's why it says CSS. But anyway, it's one of the version of CSS that they're using. You can play with it if you need to, but I don't think you will need, like, change colors and things like that. This is, you know, it's pretty cool to do it. It's just, it's when you make this change, did I make change for everybody in the whole world? No, this is just me in my local copy. When I refresh this, it's going to be gone because this is my local copy, right? Based on where I'm using is showing different things, right? So I can change my local copy as much as I need, and it doesn't really hurt, right? If you try to do the same thing on Facebook, they will give you a warning in the bottom somewhere here and say, hey, you know, I know what you're doing. And it's just like, they're basically not really, they can't really stop you from doing this, because, you know, it's, any website has HTML, CSS, and then JavaScript, which is like somewhere here. And that's the way it is, no matter what they use, Python, Java, anything they use, it will always have these three things. And that's why we can automate any application regardless of what they built with, because at the end of the day, it will be this. They can use any technology to build it, but it will always going to be these three things: JavaScript, HTML, and CSS, is because that's what your browser, the browser that you have, it understands this code, and therefore it's showing you the way it is right now. The browser actually interprets, basically, it understands the code from the server, and then it shows you all these nice things, right? But the code is being delivered to your side, not like this. Okay, if you click on source, this is how the code is being delivered to you. But then the browser is the one saying, okay, I got this, now I gotta, now basically, this is how the, okay, I'm gonna show you the real way, real thing, right? Go to the view page source. Okay, this is what the code is, right? This is what you're getting on your side. Okay, and then your browser is saying, okay, I understand this stuff, right? And then it says, okay, where is this image? It'll find the image somewhere here. There will be a link of that image, right? And it will say, okay, this image belongs here, and so, right? These are being done through HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Hopefully this helps to kind of get more understanding on how web application works. Now, with that said, there is many things you can do. You want to delete cache and cookies, you can also do it through here. You don't have to go with setting like a regular ordinary Joe. We don't have to go to setting and do that. You can actually do it here. Right click, delete all the cookies. You can see what cookies I have right now and clear. You can delete your cache. Who can tell me what cookies? And by the way, how did I even get here? It's the application. Okay, and you can come here and you can do your thing if you need to. Who can tell me the difference between cache and cookie? What is cookie and what is cache? I would like you guys to take 1 minute of your time. If you need to Google it, Google it. And then exactly at 9:45, I'm gonna ask you guys a question.
I have a question. I read the differences, like, the cookie and cache. It says cookies are employed to store user choices such as browsing session to trace the user preferences. Hello.
Yep. So take your time. 9:45 will
Okay.
You'll be the first one. Can answer that. All right. So go ahead. Sorry. Say it again. I wasn't paying attention. I was just.
Yeah, I actually,
Go ahead.
it just developed my interest to want to know more about it, because every time when you go to certain website, for example, if I'm searching something and some of the website give you the options, this website contain cookies, if you want to continue with that. So my question is that something good or bad to have it? Because a lot of time I got panicked, like, if I got that type of messages, I do not click these certain website, even though it's an informative website or whatever it is. I thought these bring the virus, some sort of viruses in your, device or in your computer. So
right. So
I just need a
anything
more
unknown,
clarification.
yeah, definitely. So anything that you not know, you're fearful. So it's good to know, especially something that you are, concerned about, maybe privacy, maybe concerned about the way you're surfing your web. So let's see how many people come up with the answer, and then we will clarify this as easy as I can clarify. So who wants to take this? I'm going to give two people a chance, and then I'm going to answer the question. So if you really, really know what you're talking about, you can go ahead and raise your hand, and I'll give you the opportunity. If you don't, then no worries. I'll explain it.
Yeah, the more of the story is when I search in web browser, the browser received my data and they save the data. That's why when I enter the second time or later, they know me. That's me. It's good thing. But what the basic difference between cookies and cache? I don't get it. It's almost same.
Okay, and Faria, you raise your hand. So
Yeah, I don't know, I'm not sure, but I think cookie is a small file that send it to the website. The website we are not use it. So once we say yes, then we able to use the website.
sort of, but okay, let me explain to you guys now that you guys tried. So, and you can see a half-eaten cookie already right here, but that's not a clue to actually help you understand this. But cookie and cache are used to actually help the websites themselves, right? For example, when you go to Facebook and you log in, and somehow the next day you go and log in, and or let's say I logged in just now, and then I can continue to go to the next page, next page, next page, and next page, and I can surf and I can go into my friend list and I can send a message. How does the website know that you are the one who is basically going to the friends? How does it know to give you the friend list that is belong to you? How does it know, right? So cookie is something to kind of identify who you are, right? And it saves it locally. For example, right here, it's like a bunch of cookies. So like, for example, let's say your Facebook, you logged in and somehow you sent me your cookie. I can just replace that on my side after going to Facebook, and now I'm logged in as you. Okay, so it's kind of like authentication. As soon as you log in, it creates a unique long identification of yourself, right? Something like this, maybe. Like, you see how big this is? So as soon as you logged in, you're seeing something like that, and it's going to say tokens. The name is going to be token. Most of the time, Facebook or big large website, they will name it relatively so you don't accidentally give it to somebody. But once you log in, and this token is saved in your browser, so now I close my browser, I open it again, completely new, and now somehow go to the Facebook. I don't have to log in again. How does my browser knows that I already logged in? Right? The cookie is already in the local storage. This is your storage right here. Okay, you got a session storage and you got local storage. In this storage, you got your cookie going on. So that way, every time you go to Facebook, it knows, hey, this person is logged in. Here's an identification, and that token will tell them, okay, you are the right person. Now Facebook decides when that expires. Right here, as you can see, expiration. I'm going to explain this one. Each cookie has an expiration date. So maybe Facebook says if somebody logs in 15 days within 15 days, if somebody logs in, then just extend their expiration date, right? If nobody logged in for 15 days straight, and that person wants to log in again, meaning not log in, like go into Facebook from the same browser, it will ask them to log in again. You guys understand? So the cookie is essential. So that way, every time you go to Facebook, it doesn't ask you to log in for everything. For everything, it is not going to ask you for login. And that's why your browser will keep the record that you logged in, and Facebook provided you with an authentication token. That token is basically going to act, basically be available to Facebook at all time. Facebook, anytime you want to go to your friend list, is going to say, okay, what is your token? What is the token that you want? Basically who you are. And your browser will immediately provide the token without even like you seeing anything. You clicked on friend list, boom, friend list are coming instantly, is because the token is provided by your browser, and that token was saved already. So cookie helps you, I would say, make your life a little bit easier, so you can revisit the website without having to log in every single time. Okay, that is cookie. Now that is just one portion. Like it could be many other information that cookie can contain. Like for example, maybe your personal information. When you go to a credit card, maybe you're applying for something, your name and date of birth and everything showing up, that is in your local. So if I somehow get access to your computer, and even though you haven't shared your Facebook with me, I just go and like, okay, just let me do something real quick, and I go into your cookie, right click, or maybe I'll just go into cookie, right click, and copy the entire thing, and then give it to myself. Now I can log into your Facebook for 15, 16, 20, whatever days that until it expires. Okay, that's one. The second thing is, if you have a token from your bank, for example, let's say TD Bank, very unsecure. But anyway, TD Bank, no, TD Bank, is it TD Bank? No, Citibank, actually. Citibank is very unsecure. But Citibank creates the token, and they don't even ask you again for any sort of authentication, meaning any bank, they should be asking you multi-factor authentication, like your phone number and things like that, as soon as they recognize the browser is not the same, right? How does it know? Wherever you originated the cookie, the browser, also there is an ID, there is IP and all that stuff that will recognize this is from the same browser, same device, and only then it will allow that specific cookie to work. So it's pretty secure for financial websites, but for Facebook and other websites, that is for social media, or maybe something that is highly, public, people, high traffic website that they cannot afford to do so many validation, they will just say, okay, cookie is good enough, right? And in that case, you can actually go into somebody's computer, steal their cookie, and then later you can actually log into their websites or wherever they surfing, right? So that's one. Cookie, any question with any cookies? So now let's say you're logged in and there is no way to log out. Just all you have to do.
Did you just teach us how to be cyber criminal?
No, you can't simply become, like, obviously, like if you steal somebody's cookie, you're going to be doing the crime. But what you do with it is your responsibility. Now,
so basically it's a good thing and the bad thing, because many cases at my previous work, something happened to the system. The first thing they said, make sure delete the cookies, so that's why it came into my mind. Is it a good thing or it's a bad?
I'll tell you why. No, they will probably say, okay, delete your cache, but I'll tell you why. This is a good thing and may not be too much of a bad thing, right? This is to make your life easy. So for example, in order for you to be in this, let's say in order for you to be safe in this world, you have some sort of social trade, right? Which is you give up some rights in order to be safe in the world, right? Meaning you don't get to say everything, right? You go out there and you say this house is on fire, and they will arrest you for that, because that is kind of causing panic in the entire, let's say, group of people or whatever. But now that is also your Second Amendment, right? You're allowed to say anything and everything, right? Based on your, let's say, government law and the amendment itself. But there are certain things you're not allowed to say that will cause harm to general public. And that trade, just like that, for example, you're giving up some sort of security here in order to make your life easy. That security here is that, yes, somebody have a potential way to grab your cookie, and maybe they can go and hack into your Facebook and everything. This is how many people actually log into Facebook, hack into people's Facebook and do things. You click on something on your email, it opens up, grabs the cookie and leaves. That's it. That's all they needed done. You don't even have to do anything. Now, so basically there is a trade. There is a small trade that you do. If you know how to be safe, then you're going to be fine. If you're that person opens an email and say, oh, I'll click on this link, and you click on it, all of a sudden it opens a browser, and then it closes back on, and you're done. And you're saying, oh, what just happened? You should immediately go into your Facebook and change the password if it went to Facebook or something. But similar to that, any link on the website, you go to some website, shady website, and you clicked on it, and it says, oh, install this, and you installed it. Somehow it will grab everything that on your browser storage, these two storage, you got local and session storage. And now they will go through this storage and say, okay, which website should I log in that this person is logged in last couple of days, right? But that is on you. How do you want to be secure, right? All I wanted to make sure that you guys want to know what cookies is. Cookies is responsible for basically verifying who you are in a website that you already logged in before. And cache is basically, cache storage is something that we deal with all the time at work. Okay, cache is basically, let's say I go to this website and I refresh and it's instant. It's instant is because this image, all this image and links are already saved in my browser somewhere in a cache temporarily, because they don't want this image to be loaded every time. Download, it has to come from somewhere. So what the website do and the developers do is says, okay, if there is no changes from our side, then the first time they visit, download all the resources. These are resources, right? Different icons, different images, videos, and everything, download it into their local cache or into their browser cache and leave it there. So every time they visit, whenever they visit, however many times they refresh, it will serve the information from their local rather than from our servers, right? So if every time I have to serve you an image because you refreshed, it's going to cost me more money, right? Because every time I serve, my machines are working to do that serving, right? Servers are working on it. So imagine millions of people are logging into Facebook, and now Facebook has to provide them with their friend list and all that. So it will temporarily save some of the information that hasn't changed. And as soon as it realizes there is a change, then it will refresh that that list of cache storage in your for that website. Now at work, you're going to see frequently developers are going to tell you one thing. You click on it, for some reason it's not working, it looks funny, it looks ugly, and you're going to say, hey, this is not working. The developer is going to say, did you clear your cache? And you're like, what do you mean? The cache right here, C-A-C-H-E, remember, it's not C-A-S-H. The cache here basically means is that these images, these buttons and things like that is still on your browser. And when they had the new icons, new stuff, it's not being served, it's being probably served top of this because you already had that save. And now you're seeing funny, you're seeing it different than what you were expecting. So there's two things you can do. You can come here and refresh your cache, meaning it'll pull the new resources from that website, or you can just click here and use incognito window. And now incognito window does not save cache or cookie. So now you can basically be fine. As soon as you click out, it will delete everything, right? So every time you go into incognito, it will be like a brand new website. So basically cache is to make your life easy. Save anything that is constant, meaning doesn't change a lot in your browser. And whenever you visit the website, it will serve it from your browser rather than from the actual server. Because if it does that, then it's going to cost them money, and money is not the only thing. It's also fast. So the first time ever, if you visit a website, it takes time because it's loading this information. It has to load everything first, then it can serve it to you, right? So the first time ever, if I if I go visit this website, you'll notice the load time is a little bit slower than here, right? So I'm going to paste it. I'm going to show you guys. You see it's loading. It did take a little bit of time, few seconds. If I click here, it's instant. It doesn't even like finish spinning. So it's because it already has what it needs already locally available. Okay, and that's why cache and cookies is pretty essential, at least for the web surfing at this point. But just make sure that you're not sharing your cookie with somebody so they can spy on you. All right, that should be clarifications about the cache and cookie. This is going to help you at work, because remember, you are not just a ordinary Joe who's using an application, who's using a website. You are maybe a bit smarter than them. Yeah, you're going to be a better than an average computer user. And for that to happen, I need you guys to be glued to your computer as much as you can. Try to stay in the computer, use it as much as you can, do anything, pay your bills, whatever you need to do through your computer, and get better and better at it. But we will probably get better at it since we're using for homeworks and other things. All right. Saad, you had any question? I think you're unmuted.
Me?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. You're good. All right, cool. So it's 10. And this cookie thing took so much time to explain. So here's the deal. Okay, let's see. What are the topics? You guys are fine with Selenium, right? So far, so good?
Yep.
Selenium is crystal clear. Okay, and so those that didn't do homework, what do you guys think? Do you guys think you guys need any extra help on getting that done?
I just have a quick question.
Yeah.
Even though I did my homework as best as I could, but it just, it shows up like an error in my homework. And so do I need to just send you the screenshot and then you will help me out, at your convenience, or I can just
Yeah,
this up
we'll
with
probably do it at the end of the class. When I tell everybody to pretty much drop, they can drop, then we'll do it. For a few people, you guys can stay back for 5-6 minutes when you guys need that help, so we can just do the screen sharing directly.
Okay.
All right, so I'm just gonna do one more topic with Selenium. So since we are basically, I will consider this as a Selenium basics class, so that way we're at least good for the next one. It will take a little bit of time. Everybody else is waiting for you guys to kind of go through this, so that way they can do their part, which is their topics. There will be a few more tools we got to teach you guys, but Selenium is the longest. Selenium is Java is going to be the longest. After that, everything else will be simple and easy to understand. Yeah, Faria, you have a question?
One more time. If I understand the click and the find elements. One more question I have in get text that I'm a little bit confused about.
Okay, so let's look at it together. I'm gonna go to the framework, one of my framework. Let's see, I got two going on here. All right, so hopefully this runs. If not, then we'll look at it. But okay, so get text we are using right here. Okay, so first we're targeting the element. We're locating the h1, which is the tag. Remember, we said tag name. We're using CSS selector for this, and we're saying get me this text, and whatever text is there, right? Get text will return a string, and that's why we have to specify what it is. Once we get the string, then we can say take the text, and then we can do comparison. We can compare and say the text is equal to this and that. So why don't we just print this, right? System.out.println, and then there is nothing to explain actually on the get text, because you just need to know this name of the method in order to grab any text. This is something that you need to use, okay? Because they already built it for you. I can probably look into the code how get text works. Let me see if I can show you that. Show in context. Method context. Okay, no, I think command B. Okay, there we go. So this is the code that Selenium wrote for us, right? This code is responsible for grabbing that piece of text that we need. But what we have to know that this will get us a text, right? Now let's print this so you know how, if it did the actual work. Go ahead and run this real quick. Maybe it's gonna run, I don't know. Last time we had that issue in my computer. Okay, it is running. Okay, maybe we didn't close the browser. Okay, so you see Nevada car insurance, that's what it grabbed, right here. It's printing it right here because nothing else we were printing before that, right? You see, this is just a string, we're not printing it, right? So we can say something like this. Okay, to make it more visual, expected, maybe expected result. Oh, sorry, this is actual result because we're grabbing directly from it. This is your actual result. And then I will do another print is gonna be expected result, and that will be this one. Okay, so notice two different things, right? This is we are expecting, and this is what the website will have, and we'll grab it through our code. And let's see how it works. So everybody here at least have everything working properly, and you guys can continue to write your automated tests. I know that Tina had some issue, and who else had some issue in the beginning?
Me.
Okay, and were you able to? Yeah.
I have some issues, teacher.
But you're fine right now. You're fine, or you're not fine?
So actually, I want to fix my project due to when I run it, first time is okay. Now there is a lots of error show. Previously, you show that if there is a Selenium problem is show, then we can click on it and copy the result sign, then we can paste it. But I try, but it's not working. That's why I need to share with you my screen, and I need to resolve the issue. Otherwise, I cannot go ahead.
Okay.
Further. Thank you.
All right, that's fine. We'll do that. So let me just explain this. I'm gonna then explain the homework for next time, and then I will schedule 2 sessions for that homework if you guys need help. So that way, I would like people to struggle through it. I would like people to learn from their mistakes. That means you got to try it, you got to keep trying it, and once you spend, let's say 4 hours, 5 hours, and there's no way that you can do it, then you can reach out, because the struggle that you're doing, it is actually helping you to learn more. So we want to make sure that you do that. Try to be more, give yourself a mindset of an engineer, which is try everything, whatever fits, right? And you're not going to find an engineer who's going to say, okay, I exactly know this is going to work. They will try in lab. Right now we're in lab, right? So you're allowed to try everything, right? So try everything, Google it, and see how far can you go, and also look at the cheat sheet, which will probably help you. Anyway, so I printed out 2 things. You got expected result and actual result. These both of them are equal to each other because they are exact same thing. One came from the browser, the other one came from us, right? Because we created the string right here. So get text just got that text from the website. Now we can do comparison. We can say if header 1 text is equal to expected result, then pass. And that's exactly what we did right here. We're saying assert equal, we're saying these 2 should be equal. And if it's not, then it will complain. Okay, it will tell you it's not equal. So that is get text. Guys, so let me explain your homework, and I'm gonna then spend maybe the next 20.
I have a question here.
Sure.
When I write print ln with inheritance, right? So it's double quote something, right? Plus double quote something, right? So what is the rules here? Because sometimes it's so close, like my name is Muhammad Haq. So when I write inheritance, it's closer Muhammad Haq. I don't make any gap between Muhammad and Haq.
Okay, if it's a string, you're allowed to put any character, right? So if you're creating a string, if you need to put if you need to put like space, you can, not a problem. But if you're creating a name, for example, this one, I don't know if you're asking about this,
No,
then
I'm just inherit like
Mhm.
when I print the code, like system.out.println with
Mhm.
inheritance, like first name plus last name
Oh, I
plus
see, I
at
see, I see, I see.
gmail.com.
Yeah. So the basic way, I guess, like developers, they like it to break it down. So you see how the space I just included directly in here.
Yeah.
Instead of doing that, I guess the conventional way they want to do is this plus, because we don't want, and then that extra space right here. If I don't do this, let me go ahead and print it without the space, right? And then we will fix this. And then conventional way versus, so you have two ways to help this, two ways to fix this plus situation. And it's really like depends on your team and how they dealing with this. So notice how there is no space and you want that space, you can just say another plus, and you can just put that space inside a single character inside of the string right here, or you can just have it a string right here. So you can choose to do that right now, at least for my class. You don't if you can
That
do
means
it this way
when
or this way,
I
that's
use
great.
double code and when I don't use double code, the problem is here. Like double code actual result plus double code plus header text, right? This line.
Yeah. So you
When
got
I
two
use double code and
examples.
when I don't use double code.
It's on you. It's a judgment that you're making, right? You're a developer. Which one is cleaner to you, right?
So
for example, let's say here you may miss it. You may have somebody look at your code and say, "Oh, why there is extra space?" and they remove it for you, right? And they're like, "Oh, no, we don't need that extra space," and they remove it. Here, they will not remove it. They know exactly why you put this. They know that it purposefully you had to put this there. You know what I'm saying? So the judgment is what will be more convenient for you, and also what will be more easier way to implement. Meaning, if you put it
so
this
one more
way,
thing, second line system.println double quote expected result plus this expected result, there is no double quotation. Okay.
oh,
Yeah.
right here,
Yes.
and then you want to do the whole thing together.
No. You just write like this one. Actual result, it's
Okay.
in double quote. Okay. And the last one, header one text, is not. Is there rules or
why? It's not a rule. It's not a rule. Okay. So you need to understand one thing, right? This is something that we cover on the first class, is that this is known. Java knows what this is. This because why? Because we already defined it in line 18. In line 18, we said header mean is this. Whenever I call header, that means this line of code, right? It already knows that. Now we also know if we put anything in double quotation, it becomes a string, and it is as is. So if we want the value from here, and this is the name, we have to call the name. The name is already defined. So if you put double quote onto this name, it will not work. It will basically, let me show you what's going to happen. No problem, right? It's not red, but what's going to happen? Well, let's run it. Now Java doesn't know what that is, right? It will treat that, it will be treating that as a string. You see, it just printed as is because that's a string right now. So now I'm going to remove this, and now it became a variable which belongs right here.
Okay.
Yeah. And now this is again string because this is nowhere to be found, right? This is not defined. We just wrote it and we put double quotation to define the string.
Okay, now got it.
Okay. All right, cool. Let me go into the homework. I don't want to hold you guys up. I know like my classes, sometimes I just lose track of time, but I need to help few people here at the end of the class. So once I explain the homework, you guys can, those pretty much has to leave. You guys can leave, not a problem. And all right, so we are up to this much. You guys validated this page that you showed up. You entered the information and everything. This is going to be a little bit hard for you. You're going to have to use get text. Okay, so now this is my test case. I'm going to write a test case for you guys. So let's say Java, whatever, like class, right? That's my first and last name at my phone number 333-1234. Zip code is 11101. For example, I'm an agent, whatever, John Doe. It's really like, you don't have to do this one if you don't want to, but let's continue. Yeah, I click on next. My test case here is that the form that I filled out earlier, it passed some information to the next form. This is another form, okay? In this form, I can see Java, class, email, okay? It's already there. I want you to validate that these information are there without duplicating, meaning if you already have like name, you need to check against your variable to make sure this is basically exactly what you wanted, okay? That's one. And the second one is that I want you to, okay, so we'll just leave it at that because I think drop down is for another day. I will show you guys. So information like first name, last name, email, phone number, and state and zip code. You want to validate and you want to make sure that this information was something that you entered before is actually showing up here on the next page. If that's what you can do, that's it. That is the validation that I will like you guys to do as a homework. And then we will, as we progress, you're going to probably automate the whole application, right? So that is the expectation. The final homework, final project will be also around this. What I want to emphasize is that once you guys kind of get a grasp, an idea, and you're free to automate, meaning you can freestyle. I can tell you a website and you can go and automate. Then I'm going to start to move on to the next things. For example, the way you see code, we can make it better, right? We can do a little bit better. I had few YouTube videos uploaded. I recently took them down, but out of share if I still had them. But there will be frameworks that will learn better than this. This is something that probably companies that been using this way for a long time, they're continue to using it, but we're going to do a better job with this. We're going to make it look better. And that's the idea. But once you guys are ready, right now, at least for the next advanced class, I would say when you are able to, like, I can just pinpoint, okay, this is the website. I want you to just go and automate this test case and you can do it. Then you are kind of ready and then we can move forward. Until then, we're going to stay here. Everybody here understood the test case? And those who didn't finish, right, I want you to finish the first one and the second one. It'll be relatively same is because you're still coming into this page after the first page, right? First page, you only filled out the information. The second page, you can do with the single one, the same homework. You can continue to the next page. All we have to do is validate, okay? And I can probably give you the first example if you guys want, right? So you grab the f name, right? And then you use get value or get, in this case, you cannot get text, and I'll tell you why. You have to use get value. It has to be value because, let me show you. It has to be value is because it's the value is right here, right? It's under value, not text. Text would be different, right? It would be inside of something like this. So let me show you the first one, you guys, and then we go from there. Are we insurance website? Okay, that's fine. Nabata, we went to the next page. Okay, so all right, so give me 10 minutes. I'm going to show you guys how to do this, and then you guys can, otherwise everybody's going to complain about the homework.
One more thing, that can I write test case and assertion with together?
Test case and assertion together.
Like first I wrote test case, then I write assertion.
A test case cannot be a test case if it doesn't have assertion.
Yeah, but
right.
in my automation, I write first test case, then I write
that means okay. So let me
can I make it together?
Let me correct you. These are steps This is assertion. So you went through these steps, and at the end, you're saying, I want to verify something. Verify, right?
Yes.
So any test case you write, you have some steps to go through. You enter some information, click, click, click. And at the end, you want to verify something. That is assertion. So of course, you have to have assertion into your test case in order to complete the assignment or complete your test case. Because if you're not validating anything, so let's say this assertion is no longer there and this assertion is not here. Anything happens along the way, automation is not going to complain. It will continue. It'll run. It'll forever run fine without any problem. Never going to catch anything. So it's like you trying to catch fish without a net, you know? Assertion are like net. You're creating the net for future. So if something changes, you can go back and catch it and say, okay, this is something that I was expecting, and I do see something else, you know? Is that answering your question? All right. So let me quickly show you guys this one thing, and then we will be on our way. So Wednesday night. So first,
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Okay, when we did the homework, the first one we just did, right? When I already fill up my information, I go to the next page. I don't have to fill up again ID and all my information, which I already did the first page, right?
Yeah, that is the feature. That is the requirement of this application, for example, right? The business analyst can say that once you fill out the first page, the second page should all carry the information to the next page. First name, last name, email, and phone number.
So I can use the ID for the first and last because I did this part and use the same information.
You can use, but you have to retype it because what happened is once you move from one page to the next, that element no longer, you cannot use that element again because that element is no longer attached to the page. You're in a new page now. So you will have to create a new variable in this page. You cannot use the previous variable, if that's what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah, because when you come to this page and you want to say, I want to grab this information, and nicely you already had the previous first name because they are same, you see a name, it's not going to work. Each page, even if they're same, each page, as soon as you moved out of the page, is new. It's no longer same.
So even though it's fill up my information, I have to delete it and start all over.
No. You don't have to delete it. So this is part of the application feature, right? It carried the information. What I gave you guys as an assignment is that once you fill out the first page and you come to this page, you just validate that it's actually filled out and it carried the information over to the next form, which is this one. So all you have to do is just validate that this information is there. So let me do one thing. Real quick.
Very quickly, I think Faria asked, like, can we continue from the portion that we already finished as coding?
Yes.
Yes, correct. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So that's what it is. I mean, that's what I should have mentioned that to begin with. But let me just show you the first one because it is not as straightforward as you think right now. I just got to show you the first one. Okay. So let me look at my code real quick. I click on this button and then I'm checking. I want to enter some value first. So that way, driver dot find element. I'm gonna go ahead and enter by. I'm just gonna do it real quick. You guys did this already, so don't mind if I go fast. ID is F name. I already know what that is, right? So dot send keys. And I will say, let's say, for example, I'm gonna give some name. Let's say John or Jimmy Camille, maybe, you know. Then L name. And I believe it's the same. Let me just go ahead and L name. Okay, good. But let me go back to the previous page just to be safe. Okay. So you got L name and you got the F name, and then lastly I have the email, which is the ID. So some of you guys that are watching this, you guys probably be able to do the work now because this is also showing you how to do the first page. Jimmy, this is I believe, I don't know, Jimmy123@gmail.com. what I will like to do is that this information, I want to put it into a variable so that way I can later use them. I cannot use web element later because it's already, we're on the next page. So remember that.
I am doing different way, like
Name.
web element.
Yeah, so that way you'll have to create again because you no longer can use, as soon as you're out of the page, you're out of the page. String. And then last.
So this is another way, right?
Yeah, will be another way. Okay. First. And you might have to do what I'm doing with your, like if you're putting directly in the send keys, you have to put it outside for a reason, because you want to reuse. You don't want to type it again. You can type it again and check, but that is not efficient. So you guys have to do it the way that I'm doing, at least for the data. Email is email, and notice how it automatically puts some escaping, and I'll explain what escaping is later. All right, what else do we have left? Phone number and zip code, and then we can click on next. You know what, you guys can do the next remaining ones. I'll just continue. So I got the first name, last name, and email. I'm gonna go ahead and put a timer right here, and then I will, from there we will take over the assertions, right? So verify first. So I'm just gonna do one for you guys. Okay, first name pre-filled on the next page or next steps, right? The next step. So where does the first name come from, right? First name comes from the first page and is pre-filled on the next page, which is the second page. So that's what we want to verify. In order to do that, we already know the first name because we already have the first name right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and use this as a variable. Oops, okay, my bad. Okay, so that's that. And then now that we know this is our expected result, right? This is what we filled in, correct? This is already our expected result. So we need actual result. So we need to grab. So actual result, I'm gonna say string actual first name. That is coming from directly from the browser. How can we get it? Driver dot find element. Okay, and then we need again we got to do the f name because it's no longer this element. I could have put it into a variable and use it, but I can't. I have to. So for example, like this. Okay, web element is equal to first name field is equal to this thing right here, right? And then all I have to do is this. This is for more cleaner code. So I'm filling it out this way. Now, can I use this guy because it is the same? No, we cannot. This belongs to a page. Okay, this belongs to another page. So I can create it again here. Okay, and if that's the case, driver dot, oh, I didn't even say bye. And you'll see, like try doing yourself, and find out if you can, right? And you'll quickly figure out that it's not working. It will say element is no longer attached to your page, and it will give you the same error. And then we're gonna say this time we're gonna say get text, right? Okay, get text is not gonna work, so I'm gonna say get. There is more things that I can get attribute. There you go. There we go. Get attribute, and with this point we have to say value. That's it, done. Okay. So get attribute, get text. Get attribute is basically anything on this HTML. On the left side is attribute, on the right side is the value. Okay, so we're using the name as an attribute. We're basically using the value, which is value is equal to the actual value in our test. Let's see, where it's not the one demo. Personal. Okay, so now we get that. This is our actual text. Now we can do assertion. We can do two ways. I'm going to do, for those who did if and else, if, okay, if I can say that first name is right here, first name equal to actual first name, then do something, right? System dot println, okay, test. Oh, did I do something wrong here? Println, okay, and then I will say something like test passed, and then I'll give it a found, okay, and then test pass, and then just gonna say plus actual text. So it's good to found text on page on, okay, found text inside the text field. Okay, now this is the text that it'll be showing up. So this is one way you're validating. This is obviously we will not do this in a real case. A real case, we're going to be doing something like this. We're going to say actual is here and the first name is expected. Okay, this one. Oops, okay, where am I trying to move at the light speed? And okay, that's it. This one line replaces the whole thing right here. We don't even have to say else, because if we say else here, it will basically, it will say anything that is not true. So we can say fail the test, right? So you can say test failed and did not find. So now here's the benefit of using JUnit. You got a single line to do the same thing where you have to write the whole piece of Java code. Now go ahead and run it, and we'll probably see if it passed, right? This is how you're gonna do your validation. All right. Okay, I gotta deal with this thing. I guess I'm gonna remove it manually or something. I don't know if I. Okay, I think I gotta deal with that thing that everybody had, that issue.
Yeah, I'm facing this issue, COVID alert.
Yeah. So we gotta deal with this one. Let me see if it shows up in here. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and I gotta need the ID of this thing so I can click on it. For saving time, I'll just simply click on it and we are good to go. Notice close. I'm just gonna click on notice close. Boom. Okay, so before we type it, I believe we can do it right here. Driver dot find element by dot, I believe that was an ID. Oh, single code, double code. All right, this time it should work. If not, then we just have to move this line around until it works. All right, so far, everybody here understood the new assignment, right? Those who didn't do it, I want the previous, you'll have to regardless do this thing, right? You'll have to regardless go through the whole thing and pretty much do it. I think what's happening is that I put the code in the wrong place, right? I think we have to click on, I put the code in the wrong place for sure. Okay. So notice is closed. And then we have to click on this guy before we can even do everything else. Okay. Okay, so now it should be in this page and we should be able to do this. Okay. Once we click on that, okay, secure auto code form, and this is the validation is also done right after. So we have to then click on it and do all that stuff. Okay, cool. Should be working now. If not, then I will. Okay, continue. I don't think I ever click continue before with my code, right? So I didn't do my homework, but anyway, let me go ahead and click continue, which is this one. I'm gonna right click, inspect. and then I'll go into this, and this is a class, this is an ID. So I'm going to go ahead and click on ID. So the next one is, once the notice is closed, we do this much right here. Yeah, and then we click next. So driver dot find element by dot ID dot click. Notice like the actions that we're doing, we're just clicking when writing. Majority of our work will be around that. So once you get a hang of this, it's really gonna be easy, because it's all you're gonna do is the same thing, right? So it's gonna be easy for you guys to remember these things. And then, okay, we need to enter zip code or something. Okay, I never did this page. Okay, there you go. Yeah, we need to enter zip code too. So let me just go ahead and enter zip code real quick, real fast. And then we should be good to go. So you'll have to, regardless, you'll have to do this for field before you can even move forward. So those who didn't do the homework, now you have all the opportunity. So the first one, okay. I will inspect. And this is phone, ID is phone, okay. Okay, 1 1 2 2 3 3 3 and 3. Okay, and then we need one for the zip code. And I'm doing it fast, so don't, if you look at my code, it's not done properly. Okay, just this is just for me to go to the next page, because people, you should be following this thing right here, the way that we defined. So that way you can later reuse this. All right, let's run and we should be good. Continue and then done. Okay, and I didn't close my browser, then we're fine. And did not find the text inside of the field Jimmy for some reason, but that is because maybe it is direct comparison is not working, or I don't know what it is. But let me go ahead and print both to make sure that, how do I know is actually finding anything? So I'm gonna have to print it just to make sure it's comparing the right thing. Println. I know why. Is because when you do equal to, it's not gonna, at least for string, it needs, I believe, I forgot the term for that. There is, okay, let me see. Java compare, okay, to string. There is a way to compare to a string, which is equal to probably not do good with Java. So we have to use actually something called this. Okay, this is equal to this guy. We have to use the method. Okay, so for string, just remember, we can't simply do equal to. Okay, there is a logic actually. Let me go ahead and show you guys this. Okay, equal to test for reference equality, whether they are the same object. Okay, equal tests for the value and equality. This is, I know it's going to sound confusing to you, but just know that for string, when you say equals, it's going to be true if you use this guy, but when you say equal to, it is false. Somebody already did this work for us, so we can look at it, right? So for string, we should not use double equal. Okay, in Java, at least in Java. Any other language is fine. My primary language is Ruby, so that's why I wasn't able to even come up with this method. Anyway, so let me run this right now. It should pass. This is a good to know, right? Because you will probably face this one at some point. And anytime you feel like something is happening wrong, you have no idea, go ahead and Google it, because that's how, you know, you will be, you see now it's passing found text inside, it's called Jimmy. And then I already showed you guys the first name, and you just have to do the remaining. Here is how my code looks like. Okay, so from start to end, Jimmy right here, and that. So you can do the same thing with your code and you'll be done. Some of you guys that did the homework, I think it'll take you no less than 30 minutes. I mean, no more than 30 minutes, right? I mean, look. All right, that's that, guys. I will end the class here. I'll stop the recording and I will work with those who needs help. If you guys want to stay, you're free to stay. Otherwise, you can drop for today's class. All right, let me go ahead and stop recording.